Hey there, blues fans. John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and this is your Tuesday Blues lesson number 149. In this lesson, I'm going to give you 3 simple but powerful exercises to help develop good timing. So let's get started. One common struggle for all new guitarists is building good timing and a good sense of rhythm. And there are those out there that think that you're either born with the groove in you or you just don't have it and you never will. And I strongly disagree with that. And I think that's good news for the rest of us, because that means that we can do some things in our practice on the guitar to actually learn and develop good timing. And what we're going to do today is go through 3 exercises, each using a metronome. That's the secret weapon here. That is the device that does not lie. It keeps rigid time, and that's what you need to sort of measure yourself up against right now is the metronome. Now, I have an app on my phone called Metronome Beats, and it works great. There's a few different settings that we're going to go through today that will really help you in these exercises, but any old metronome for the most part will do. I'm going to start this out with a setting of a very low beat per minute, meaning that a very slow tempo is what we're going to use. I'm going to use 60 beats per minute, and the funny thing is that at a slow beat per minute, things actually become pretty difficult when it comes to getting the correct timing. That's because there's so much space, there's so much room for human error, and that's what we're trying to remove, and that's why we're going to use the metronome at a slow tempo to really challenge you at that slow pace. And once you can do that, you'll find that you're more accurate when you go into faster tempos. All right, so let's hear the first exercise at 60 beats per minute. So what's happening here is this is really going to help you out with the thumb. If you're doing some finger picking stuff, this really helps get that sense of a dead bass with the thumb. So the thumb is pumping out every single click. That means that every bar has 4 clicks. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 with the thumb. That's kind of your timekeeper, and you want that locked in to that beat. And what we're doing is on the first beat, we're playing a chord, and we're really just alternating back and forth between 2 chords. We've got this A here. I'm just plucking strings 4, 3, and 2 under a regular A bar chord here. And then we'll reach up and do this little chord here where I've got my 4th fret of the 4th string here down. And then I'm going to put middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So we're kind of moving into a little bit of a D chord. And so that just gives a little bit of variation, just moving over this A chord and this sort of inverted D chord here. It's also a pretty cool sound. So, but all we're doing is we really want to make sure that our thumb locks up with the beat, each and every click. And then when we get ready to do the 1, we're going to do our chord. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So practice that. And even though this is somewhat of a simple exercise, you'll find that working it with the metronome is where the real results occur, especially if you're practicing this as a regular part of your guitar practice. When you pick up the guitar, just fire up this app or bring along your metronome and just spend a couple of minutes with a little exercise like this, or this next exercise that I'm going to show you. So let's have a look at exercise number 2. So what we're doing here is a slight variation on exercise number 1. We still have the thumb doing that steady bass, playing every single quarter note, the strong beats, the 1, 2, 3, 4. But in contrast to exercise 1, we're not going to play on top of the beat when we play our chord. And again, we're going to play this A bar chord, or we're going to do this inversion of a D major chord. But what we're going to do, instead of playing it on beat 1, we're going to shift it, and we're going to shift it by an 8th beat. So a quarter note is what we've been talking about so far, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the subdivision of the measure. Now we're going to subdivide that even further and start thinking about 8th beats. So when we count that, we would count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 notice that I played on the and. Not when I said a number. Those would still be the quarter note beats, the real strong downbeats, if you will. But I played on sort of this off time on the 8th note. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that actually will test your ability to sort of start separating out the thumb from the finger. So this is really good for your finger picking. It will reinforce good finger picking skills as well as help you develop a good sense of timing. But now that we've talked a little bit about these 8th note subdivisions, we're really going to take that to the extreme in the next exercise. So let's have a listen to it played with the metronome. Again, we're at 60 beats per minute. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this exercise, we're playing on each beat, each subdivision. So we're going to play on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and of each bar. And we're really just alternating between the bass with the thumb and playing the chord tones, just picking those simultaneously on the and of each beat. And then at the very end, we're going to pick up, and instead of playing the A under the bar, just to make things a little interesting, we'll pick up and play those same strings, but open. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's the exercise. And surprisingly, it can be a little difficult to play each and every one of these subdivisions. You'll want to rush in between or sort of lag a little bit on those sort of upbeats there when you're plucking the chord tones. But hopefully you've gotten this solid sense of the quarter note beats already just by working through these exercises so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. But putting these in can cause you to rush it, and that's what you want to fight against. Make sure that they would fall directly on the and if you're counting this. And I encourage you to count this, count it aloud with the metronome. So these are 3 really solid exercises that if you work them into your playing, your practice, and just spend a few minutes at the top of each practice session working with a metronome, before you know it, you'll see some real results and you'll start developing a really good sense of timing. Now, if you want to take this to the bonus level, then set your metronome to, if you can do this on yours, and I can on this app, where it will drop out. So I can play for a couple bars and then it'll drop out for a couple bars and then it will come back in. In other words, the clicks will exist for 2 bars, then you can keep playing with no clicks and then the clicks come back in. And the test is when it comes back in, are you on beat? So let's do that right now. And I'll go back to exercise 1 and we'll do a little dropout here, and you can see how this will help you self-correct, really kind of test yourself and really push it to the limits as far as your timing. So here's this exercise 1 bonus round. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. So as you can see there, it is very difficult when the metronome drops out. Even in this simple exercise, it really challenges you. And you've got to keep your body moving. I like to tap my foot. You'll probably see me bobbing my head. You get your body into this thing, get it connected to that tempo, and that really helps to build your internal clock. And that's all wrapped up in this whole conversation about a good sense of rhythm and good solid timing. So if you've never worked with a metronome before, pick up this app or grab a physical metronome and spend some time working on these 3 exercises. And I think that you'll see that it'll start to point out some of your weaknesses, which is a good thing. That means that we can get right to work on improving those weaknesses.